Mr Medic.
Thank you, President. Firstly, I offer my condolences to the families and friends of firefighters who lost their lives defending those communities that they served. They will be missed and grieved long after the landscape and the townships have recovered. I extend my condolences and thanks to all those from other states who fought fires, both in their own jurisdictions and those who travelled here to help. They too are grieving for losses in lives and property. I'd like to make special mention of the crew of the Zeus, 3 US citizens who came to Australia to help and lost their lives when their plane went down in the snowy mountains. Their families, communities and colleagues have my sympathy also. I have great appreciation and thanks for the members of the CFA, the ADF, the SES and Victoria Police. Their roles cannot be understated. Minister Lisa Neville, Andrew Crisp and Steve Warrington formed a formidable triumvirate of emergency response and coordination. My particular thanks to them. I'd also like to thank Minister Symes for her assistance in facilitating some help that I was taking to Wangaratta. These days on social media, there are a number of things that pop up and we see them with monotonous regularity sometimes. And it seems to me, I'd just like to pay tribute to somebody else in this chamber, because every time I turned on social media, there was one person whose face kept popping up, and that's Ms Shing. Her support for her community was just astounding. She seemed to be in 50 places at once every single day. It was just extraordinary, to the point where when I saw her this morning, I was going to ask if she perhaps had a number of identical siblings that she'd perhaps been keeping a secret from the rest of us. It was extraordinary, and in the support of her communities, she set an example for local government, for state governments and indeed for federal governments as to how a politician should react and should support their communities in times of crisis. I'm always amazed and in awe at the resilience of the people of Victoria. Whenever we're faced with such an emergency, their capacity to dig deep and help others, both financially and practically, gives us all hope in what is often a depressing world. Clothes, water, food and money have poured into charities. Along with the loss of human lives and property, we have seen these fires consume a tremendous amount of agricultural land and native bush, which tragically means the loss of life for many of those animals that live there. Early scientific estimates suggest in excess of 1 billion lives lost. This only includes native animals and doesn't include insects or frogs. It also doesn't include the tremendous loss of animals used in the agricultural sector. Hundreds of thousands of these animals, including sheep and cattle in paddocks and chickens and pigs in sheds, for instance, have perished due to extreme heat, smoke and burns. We probably won't ever know the final figure. What is known is that habitat for many endangered and threatened species has been destroyed for now. And it is entirely possible that with this widespread habitat destruction, some species will be extinct and others will now be under threat. I am grateful for the government's swift response, committing to $17.5 million in funding to restore habitat and to protect these threatened species. I thank those rescuers and carers who have been given their time and expertise to aid our wildlife. They continue to do this without reward or thanks, quietly but determinedly going about their passion to save animals. Thanks too to Animals Australia, Vets for Compassion, Animal Rescue Collective and others for the work they and their volunteers did and continue to do in the coordination of the collection and distribution of supplies and veterinary, medical and logistical work on the ground. My thanks to the vets at Melbourne Zoo who provided expert services in wildlife care, to the Australian Veterinary Association, the RSPCA for their efforts near firegrounds in Gippsland, to Five Freedoms Rescue for their efforts and especially Wildlife Victoria for their coordination of many rescue efforts day in and day out through this period, and many, many others, too many to mention. For those of us who sit on the outside of these disastrous situations, it's a very difficult thing because we look and we see the efforts that are being made and we often feel very helpless ourselves. That was my experience. I am not a member of the CFA, I'm not a firefighter, I'm not a member of the SES. And I struggled to think of what I could do practically to help. So I did the only thing that I thought possible. I made a couple of mercy runs. I hooked up a borrowed trailer. I made my office open till late at night. And I travelled to Bairnsdale and again to Wangaratta, and I dropped off full loads of desperately needed food and emergency medical supplies for wildlife. The drive through the smoke was a sobering experience, and I thank all of those that donated those supplies and that dropped them off to my office. It's a very small thing, I know, and I still feel that I haven't contributed enough. Many of the people that dropped these supplies off, just like many others, the volunteers out on the ground, specified they wanted no recognition, they just wanted to make a difference. That's that admirable quality of Victorians. I also know that there's been frustration in the world of animal rescue and care around the bushfires. I'm working with the government to ensure a better relationship, a better arrangement and a better response can be implemented in future. Because how do we improve the way we care for wildlife during fires, during all emergencies? What can we do better? Those are questions we should always be asking, and we should always be open to criticism too. Otherwise, how can we possibly adapt? We want to make the response one the world will admire and seek to copy. The world has been watching, and they too have been generous. They've grieved with us, they've supported us, and they will now look to us to lead the way, as Victorians have always done. We also need to recognise the reasons the fires were so severe. Victoria and Australia will be one of the first to suffer from the effects of the climate emergency. I want to be part of a parliament that takes the urgent and necessary actions. Finally, while we offer our condolence for those people that have suffered, we also offer our thanks for all those who have helped. Thank you.
Thank you.